we have Haley Thomas, Haley Wave, we have Holly Carver, and Lisa Earnhardt. Haley is a really good friend of one of my friends who's also in real estate. Got involved in commercial right away. Then when she told me she had 2 female leaders, I'm like, okay, I have to have you guys on. Speakers. Today the class is Resimercial, how to add commercial to your residential resume. So I'm going to hand it over to you guys, and I just want to say thank you guys so much for coming on, and I look forward to learning from you myself.
Right. Thank you, Tanya. So I'm gonna lead our quick presentation, and then Holly and Lisa are we'll have a Q&A for everybody at the end that they're gonna take over. Holly and Lisa are my mentors, and they are the experts. So
and if the presentation doesn't have your background, I looked at your backgrounds and I thought maybe if it's not there, if you guys could just kind of introduce yourself and give your backgrounds. Could be in the presentation though.
Yep, we have it. So this is Holly. So Holly has over 25 years of experience in sales, government relations, economic development. That's a really strong background of hers. And then obviously commercial real estate. So she's really an asset when it comes to getting things done at a city and county level in commercial real estate. So redevelopment, knowing who to talk to, who to consult with, etc. And her and Lisa do everything together. They're the founders of Rocket City Commercial. They're brokered by EXP Commercial now, after owning their boutique brokerage for a couple years. Lisa has over 25 years of experience in real estate, as you can see here. She used to work for a developer for quite some time. So a lot of experience as well, as far as getting things done at a city and county level when it comes to development, but also lots of experience in commercial leasing and sales, new construction, and she has a consulting business. So very, very well-rounded mentors I'm blessed to have. They've been mentoring me ever since I started my career. So I'm a sales and leasing associate at Rocket City, brokered by EXP Realty. So I'm on the realty side of EXP. So I do residential and commercial sales, and then commercial leasing as well. I'm an EXP certified mentor. I graduated in 2021 with a degree in real estate, which is a business degree. It's bachelor's. And I kind of hit the ground running thanks to Holly and Lisa. So a lot of what I was able to accomplish in my first year and a half, I got my license in the summer of 2021, was due to having such great mentors on my side. I'm sure many of you, or if not all of you, started with mentors on your residential side of your career. And that's going to be a big part of if you want to add commercial to your business, you're going to need a mentor just the same. So we'll start. That's a quick intro. So commercial real estate includes a variety of different types of real estate. So these are the main ones: industrial, which is like warehousing, retail and office, of course, commercial leasing, vacant land and development, investment sales. So that would be like a property that has a tenant in place, for example. And then I can't even see the bottom of my presentation. Oh, multifamily. I'm sorry. Okay, I heard somebody, but we'll move on. So multifamily, as you guys know, is anything over 4 units. So my recommendation in starting your commercial real estate career is to find a mentor, because you just don't know what you don't know. So you wouldn't have sold your first house by yourself. Sorry? You wouldn't have sold your first house by yourself. So you don't want to do your first commercial transaction by yourself either. What's really cool about EXP, even if you're on the realty side, we often partner with agents that are under EXP Commercial, and they're all over the United States. So wherever you guys are, we're based in Florida, in Central Florida, but there's agents all over the US and also internationally, just like realty agents. EXP Commercial is the same way. So wherever you are, we can definitely find someone that would be willing to help you. And then even if they're not under EXP Commercial, I'm sure that there's a commercial broker in your area that would be willing to co-broker with you. So that way you can learn through your first couple of transactions while still protecting your client and doing what's in the best interest of them. Of course, we want to talk about lead generation. So a lot of this is going to be really similar to what you guys do in your residential businesses. So the number one source of leads for me when I started was leads from my mentors. So Holly and Lisa are very successful, of course, and very busy. So they just don't have time to field all the leads that come in. So then I would get those leads, both residential and commercial. And that's a really, really big part of my business, and being able to work those and get experience through those while they're still, a part of the transaction and guiding me through it, is really, really great. Of course, expired and FSBO for sale by owner listings, cold calling, and utilizing your existing sphere is something that you guys that already have a residential business, I think, can really use. You'll find a lot of the people that you're selling or helping purchase homes with have businesses or have friends that have businesses, etc., that need commercial real estate services. I really like in-person prospecting. I love going into small businesses and asking what their expansion plans are, talking to them, getting to know them. It's my personal favorite. Networking events, of course, and then referrals from other agents or, other agents in your office, in the area, etc. Making it known that you can do commercial real estate, I find is really helpful, because we want to collaborate with other people, not, get rid of them. So once you use those lead generation techniques that you're probably already familiar with, what do you do? So commercial real estate has their own property search forums. So you're all familiar with the MLS and know how to use that. And there are commercial properties on the MLS. A lot of commercial brokers don't use them. So my personal favorite is CRUXY. It's free. If you're a member of NAR, you get to post on CRUXY for free. So you don't pay anything for it, which is great. And it's also free to use and free to search. Total Commercial is also free to search and free to post your listings for the first about, I think, 90 days. And then after that, it's really affordable. They're not everywhere yet, so it's not the biggest one, but it's a really great platform. And then, of course, LoopNet, which is free to search, but it's not free to post on. So if you want to post your listings on there, that'd be an additional fee, kind of like your MLS membership. And then if you get to a property, that's more for like if you're searching for property for purchases, but for listings, you of course need to have software to do evaluation, which you can do on MLS, but a lot of properties are not sold on MLS that are commercial, so it's not always the best tool. But because you're a NAR member, you have access to RPR, which pulls public record sales. So if you're familiar with RPR, it's Realtors Property Resource. You get it for free with your NAR membership. And you can also use Valuate, which is a app through RPR that you can get. It's really easy to use, and there's RPR does like classes weekly, kind of like your local association does, about how to use RPR and use their valuation system. So you're already paying for it, you should definitely use it. We're big fans of the property appraiser site. I know every county is different, but Brevard County, where we work in Florida, has a really great one. So we often use their systems to search for properties based on the site code or the use code. Pretty easy to do, and most property appraiser sites have that option where you can do that. You can also do valuations on CRUXY and RealMe, which are both paid platforms. So CRUXY is free to post, but if you want to search for comps on CRUXY, you do have to use their paid system, but it is really valuable. And then RealMe, you can do property valuations, but it's also you can get property owners' contact information, mortgage information, etc. on RealMe. That's a really popular platform as well if you're looking to invest in that software. So commissions are a little bit different in commercial real estate than they are in residential real estate. We all want to know how we want to get paid, how we're going to get paid, right? So for purchase and sales, it's going to be what you're used to. You're going to get paid at the table. And then if the commission or the property listing is not an MLS and you're closing on the property, you always want to ask, usually right when you start talking to the listing agent, what the commission offered is from the seller, and have it in writing via email. Because if it's not posted on MLS, then it's sometimes possible that the seller is not offering a buyer side commission, or there's a variable commission based on the purchase price, etc. So you want to make sure it's on writing and you're not just checking it when you get the settlement statement draft. Ask in the very beginning. You always want to protect yourself. For commercial leasing, it's going to be a little bit different. So commercial leases are usually a little bit of a longer term, and we often see rent abatement on the front so that your tenant moves in and they don't have to pay rent for the first couple of months. Usually the landlord's not going to pay you immediately. Depends on the agreement with the listing agent. So always ask that at the very beginning, just like I said for the purchase and sale commissions. And commercial lease commissions are generally paid on a percentage of the base rent over the base term. So for example, if your tenant signs a lease for 5 years, and over that 5 years, they'll be paying $100,000 in rent, your commission is based off $100,000. So if it's 3%, then it's 3% of $100,000. And then it would be paid out according to the listing agent's agreement with the landlord. So sometimes what we see is your first half of your commission is paid when they sign the lease, and the other half is paid when the tenant starts paying rent. But every landlord's different, so always ask. So commercial leasing, we get a lot of questions about. On TikTok, I post a lot about commercial leasing, and I always get questions about how it works. And I find that a lot of residential agents have commercial leasing prospects because their clients are business owners that need a space for their business or a new space, or they're expanding what they have. So the general flow of commercial leasing is to locate and tour space. So that's why I mentioned those sites where you can find spaces available for lease, CRUXY, LoopNet, Total Commercial, because you're going to need those. You're not really going to find a whole lot in MLS usually. Once you locate a space and you're able to tour it, you always want to ask the listing agent for what the triple net or CAM is. So CAM stands for Common Area Maintenance, and this is an additional monthly charge based on usually a per square foot price that every tenant in the plaza has to pay. It's a way for the landlord to recover their expenses. So it's usually not advertised, but what you'll see is the listing will say the property is $12 per square foot per year, NNN, which means that it's $12 per square foot per year plus whatever that triple net amount is. And it varies very much between properties. We see it as low as $2 a square foot and as high as $10 or $12 a square foot. So really want to make sure you ask that to make sure the property's, one, still in budget for your client, and two, that they're comfortable with it, even if it is within their budget, because it's different than what they may have intended from the beginning. After you're okay with the numbers and they like the space, you'll draft what is called an LOI, a letter of intent. You may be familiar with this, depending on your market. But a letter of intent is just a non-binding agreement, and it's an offer, but even if both parties sign it, it's non-binding. So commercial leasing, it's not done until they sign the lease and both parties have signed the lease and they pay their checks and they get the keys. So letter of intent is a way for you as an agent to represent your client without touching anything that an attorney would need to touch. So you make your offer and it outlines all the basic terms of what the tenant's looking for from the landlord. Once you accept the LOI, that's when the landlord's going to draft a lease. As you guys know, we cannot play attorney, we'll lose our license. So once the lease comes into play, you definitely want to make sure that you recommend an attorney to your tenant, so that way they can review the lease for them. And if you live in Florida, I have a list of attorneys that review leases for my clients that I really like. And it's the attorney's job from that point to redline the lease, because if you touch it and somebody reports it, you can lose your license for it for practicing law. So we don't want to have that. But if you're on the letter of intent, you're safe and you can redline the letter of intent all day. Don't worry about it. And then once the lease is signed and everybody's happy, you usually are going to need to send an invoice for your commission. And what's great about EXP is they've already thought about this for us. If you're an EXP agent, there's already a form in SkySlope for you. That's a commission invoice for a lease. So it's really easy to fill out and to make sure you get paid. And then you'll just do the invoice based off what the listing agent told you was the schedule of payment and put it in SkySlope just like you would anything else. So thankfully that part's easy if you're an EXP agent. And then if you're not, you'll just want to ask your broker how they want it. So I'm not sure how many of you guys are EXP agents. I see some of you have an EXP background. Is there anybody here that's not an EXP agent? Is there like a lot of you? Are you guys all with EXP? Tanya, do you know?
Pretty much everybody here is with EXP.
Great. So I just didn't want to talk too long on this if it didn't apply to a majority of the group. So this is a question that we see often is, can you do commercial transactions under EXP Realty? Of course you can. You see on the slide here, this is a screenshot from my SkySlope, where they've now added commercial lease and commercial sales options for your checklist type. So it's really easy to do now. Your license covers residential and commercial transactions, right? So EXP, our broker, can oversee those transactions, whatever state you're in. We're sky slope friendly, so your paperwork's a lot easier now. And what's interesting too is being under EXP Realty, it's usually a better fit if you still are wanting to sell homes, because the EXP commercial brokers are not an MLS. So you can't sell homes under EXP commercial because you can't be a member of your local MLS, and therefore you can't be a realtor. So it's better for that reason if you want to sell homes to continue being brokered by EXP Realty, but also it's cheaper to be brokered by EXP Realty. Your monthly fee is cheaper at $85 a month versus $120 a month on the EXP commercial side. And also your cap is lower if you're a solo agent. And obviously it's lower if you're in a team, but if you're a solo agent under Realty, your cap is about $4,000 lower than it would be if you joined EXP commercial. So it's really valuable, in my opinion, to be a Realty agent and do commercial transactions. And I've had no issues with it from a transactional standpoint or from a state broker support standpoint as well. It's not been a problem. And also having RPR and CRUXY for free is huge because I already pay for all of that. Why wouldn't I just use it? Makes my life a lot easier. So that is about, wanting to explain EXP. And then this is additional resources. In the world, you have access to EXP commercial trainings as a Realty agent. So you can go onto those Zooms via EXP University, and you have access to all of them. So leverage all of that information as much as you can. Some of my favorite podcasts and YouTube commercial real estate like influencers, I guess. They're not really influencers, but they have really great information in an entertaining way are listed here as well. So I can come back to this if you guys need it. Beth Azor, she's the commercial leasing queen. She turns around shopping centers like you've never seen before. So her podcast is amazing if you're looking to get into leasing specifically. All right, well, that is all I got, kind of a quick overview. I'm now going to hand it over to Holly and Lisa for questions. If you have an EXP Realty specific question, then I'll answer it. But if it's about the business, if you have a prospect currently, it's all them.
I have a question. So where are people buying commercial real estate? Because I know there's hot spots, right? And so if they are buying, you guys are in Florida. So if anybody has a referral for Florida, they would send them to you. But would they also send you referrals for other states?
You can take it. Sorry, we're one person usually. Well, we're seeing a really hot market here in Florida continue. Of course, that's probably been national news and not a surprise to anyone. And even more specifically on the space coast of Florida, with all the, you see our rocket in the background, we're the rocket ladies, all the space infrastructure and jobs happening in our area. I think there's always opportunities in commercial. Even during COVID, Lisa and I had to shift from hotel, retail, hospitality type industry to more medical, industrial, and leasing. That when banks weren't lending and interest rates go up, then we switched to leasing. There's always an opportunity, almost like in residential. People are always getting married, getting divorced, kids are growing up. There's always opportunity for real estate. It's just knowing where to look and paying attention to the market, and what do those market changes and that shift that everyone talks about, how does that impact your local market? So I think the answer is everywhere, which is probably too broad of an answer, but there are opportunities in every market.
Fantastic. My next question is, you talked about industries, right? What are the industries that are moving and buying right now or selling? Because, I have heard because of the pandemic, there's a lot of industries that, like I think food and beverage is one of them, that are really having to make a shift. Are there any specific industries to focus on right now?
Industrial, definitely industrial. And Holly and I represent a refrigerated industrial client in warehouse industrial. And he just said how busy he is looking for land. We represent him in the state of Florida. So outside of the state of Florida, he has other folks representing him. But when you look at Tuesday morning filing for Chapter 11, and you look at Bed Bath and Beyond filing for Chapter 11, people are still going to need a shop. So those people now go online. Prior to the pandemic, my in-laws and my parents never shopped online. And the more online shopping you have, the more warehouse you need. Kroger's is a big example of that. They have delivery throughout the state of Florida, and yet in our market and in several surrounding markets, there's not a Kroger store, but they're warehousing the food and they're delivering. So I'd say right now, the hottest market is definitely industrial. And then to play off of what Holly said, second is medical and probably assisted living, just because of the aging population and where the age is going, you're needing more medical as well as assisted living. And while the younger generation is looking for experiences and they're going into the VBRO and not the hotels, a lot of clients that we're talking to believe that you're going to see a shift in the hotels doing conversions to assisted living at some point, which again is a shift within the market.
Very interesting. Okay. Now what about storage spaces and RV parks? I've been hearing a lot about that here in Florida.
Yeah, we do hear that as well. Yeah, for sure. Storage is always a hot item. Where the struggle that we have in our community is the land that's zoned to allow for storage. And sometimes like specifically in where we live, they don't want to change the zoning to industrial to accommodate more storage. But there are a lot of beautiful products out there where instead of it looks like a warehouse with roll-up doors, we're seeing a lot of products that have a really nice street facing front and maybe some retail on the bottom. So the storage companies are adapting to be allowed into those areas as well. And RV parks is an interesting one that we keep hearing pop up too. I mean, just the vacation, the resort, like Lisa said, the experience, instead of going to the hotel, people want the experience and be able to take it with them. So we're seeing a big trend in that too.
I love that. Thank you. Who else has a question? If not, I do have another question. Sharmila?
Hi, so I'm from Texas. I'm from Dallas, and I see a lot of small businesses opening up like after COVID. So what are the prospects and how to reach the people who are looking for spaces in the market? If you could just talk about that.
Small businesses. Yeah, so after COVID, when a lot of people lost their jobs, we've seen a trend in people starting their own businesses, which is a great thing. What we're finding is a lot of the larger landlords have very strict requirements. And so you're having to go more with the mom and pop, smaller strip centers to have that flexibility with a brand new business owner because of the requirements. They're wanting someone with experience, and they're typically not wanting to do a lot of tenant improvement. They're wanting to turn over the space as is because they're taking a risk on the person that has zero experience.
Yeah. And
Haley, you look like,
yeah, I do a lot of small business tenant representation. All the commercial leasing I've done, more than a dozen transactions, are with small business owners. My parents are small business owners. I'm really passionate about it. And so what I find is preparing that prospect and that tenant with what the landlord's going to require is best, right? When you go show a home, you ask them for their pre-approval so they know what they can afford. You kind of want to do the same thing with your prospective tenant, right? So asking them for their most recent tax returns, profit and loss statements, what they think their budget is. And then if they tell you, well, Sharmila, I want 1,000 square feet for $500 a month, and in Dallas, that's probably not realistic. Well, then that's a hard conversation to have, but then they know what they can budget for and you follow up with them in a year, right? Just like you would a homeowner. So that process is something you're similar for, but I find being upfront with people is best and just giving them the information. And when I prospect for small business owners, I usually prospect one on social media. So if they have an Etsy shop, or you probably have a lot of farmers markets in your area, right, where small business owners have vendors. So I like those as well on the weekends. So if you see us, this woman who's selling, I don't know, candles, and she has a ton of people and a huge social media presence, that's a good person to prospect for because she probably has good revenue. So that's how I like to prospect for them. And obviously people with existing locations as well. So maybe they're in a not so nice strip center, but you know they're the best barber in town. Walk in and say, hey, what are your expansion plans? Where do you want to go next? Oh my gosh, Shamila, I'm so glad you walked in. You know, I've been looking for a new space. You're heaven sent. That's happened to me before, right? Because I knew they needed a new space. So same thing with like dying malls. Those are, we see it, have a lot of those in Florida. I'm sure Texas can be similar. So that's a lot of what I do and how I prospect for that. I hope that answers your question.
So I have a question that relates
Thank
to
you.
financing. So in terms of, you know, you're saying ask all the questions. What is the financing process for commercial? So if they came to you and they said, you know, I have cash to put down, or I'm going to get a loan, what does that process look like?
Talking about for sale.
On a for sale property,
Mm-hmm.
I guess we're talking about.
Yeah. So on a first sale. So if we bring the buyer.
Yeah. Sure. So it's again, knowing your market and having those relationships with local mortgage brokers and the community banks. We're seeing a lot of small business really getting approved through community banks and SBA, just having the good relationships, knowing that going in. With our larger clients, they pretty much already have their financing, either their cash or they've got their banker in place. But for small business, definitely having local relationships and knowing who you can send those to, much like you do in residential, and knowing who the good lenders are and the title companies. We have to have those same kind of relationships here and be able to guide people to that. A lot of communities have local incentives, and for instance, in our area, there's an area called the zone, and so you can get a 10% incentive grant for a blighted building, or if you're bringing in lots of jobs. And so just being aware of what's available in your community. Haley's done a good job of being really aware of that. She works a lot in Brevard County, in Orange County, and in Duval, and really has gotten a lot of information in all of those markets of what's available. So that just leads me to a quick point. When we're throwing out terms and like tenant improvements and LOI and triple net, and Haley did a great job of explaining those, but a lot of times on our side, as we only do commercial real estate, and someone who's doing commercial for the first time or the first few times in residential, it really stands out to us that you don't know what you're doing if you don't know the language to use. And we're gracious about it. We always want to help people, and we help them through it. And if they just can't get it, then we'll offer to pay a referral fee for them to turn their client over to us, which has happened. But I would say, take advantage of the EXP University classes that Haley mentioned, and just really start understanding what those terms mean if you don't know what they mean and someone else is using them. Unfortunately, a lot of commercial brokers out there might take that opportunity to crush you and your client, and you want the best for them. So I don't know if you want to say anything else about that, Haley, to follow up.
I think that's really great points. EXP University is amazing, but also if you can find a mentor in your area to work the deal with you on the front end personally, that's best case scenario. Because there's been a lot of times where as a brand new agent, I have clients that they're going up against big landlords, big developers, and I got my license in 2021. So I go to Holly and Lisa and I'm like, what do you think? And they are able to see forward a lot more than I can. So I know what to do maybe right here, right now, but then they read my letter of intent or my offer and they're like, okay, well, if you say this, and they can come back and do this. And I would have never thought of that. So it's really, really in the best interest of you and your client to engage someone more experienced than you from the very beginning.
Thank you. So let's go back to the mentees. So you guys are looking for mentors, right? Are you looking to mentor people? So if there is an EXP agent now, they have a mentor or they're on a team and they have you as their mentor for commercial, what does that look like? How does that work?
In our market, so we only mentor folks that are in our market and in our line. And the reason we do that is because we can have them come into the office and we can overlook what they're working on. We started mentoring outside of our market and we weren't really doing anybody any favors, and we had mentees that were going rogue and doing stuff, and then they come back and they're like, oh, look what I did. And we're like, oh no, you can't put a piece of land under contract with a 30-day due diligence and the zoning's not correct. So we just weren't serving the mentee well, and vice versa. So we've decided that we were going to only do it if they were able to report to the office, go over the LOI, the contracts with us. And because of that, we're also, as Haley had mentioned, Holly and I have a lot of listings. When we probably at any given time, we have 30 listings, and you've got them closing, and then you get more listings, and we'll get calls on the centers. And if we can't accommodate the tenant, we'll say, sorry, we can't accommodate you prior to our mentorship, because we didn't have time to go and try to find something for them and drive all over town. Because of our mentees, we're now able to give them that lead, that they're able to make sure that they're papered up and sign that representation agreement. So they make sure they're getting paid, and they can do the research and make a really good living off of those deals. The average commercial real estate agent closes 5 deals annually. Last year, Holly and I closed 65, sorry, I'm dyslexic, 65 transactions. And above and beyond that, we were able to still give our mentees a bunch of leads that they were able to close and make money off of. And we know that our clients are being taken care of. Right now, we're working with a quick service restaurant that is a national chain, and we brought Haley in on it because we just wanted her to get the experience, and we also wanted the help in doing the maximum research. So just trying to find someone in your own market, I think you're best served, and calling them on a regular basis and saying, hey, do you have anything that you're not wanting to work on? You know, and it's the listing agents that usually have those extra leads coming in, that they are just too busy to work on as a representation.
I would just follow up on that, saying that in any market, you're going to have Resimercial agents, some very experienced people in EXP that do commercial real estate, but are still part of EXP Realty. And I like the way that EXP has it set up, that we all appreciate the value of a mentor. And we realized from the very beginning that we're going to pay something for that. And so whatever that percentage is, that you can reach out to somebody that you admire who's doing commercial real estate in your market. Even if they're not with EXP, if you can't find that EXP commercial agent there, I'm sure there's a commercial mentor who for 50% of a deal would help you walk through something. It would make sense. So I would say, look who's doing the deals in your area. If they're EXP, all the better, but don't hesitate to reach out to someone that you admire and offer them half of your commission to learn from them.
Yeah, and it gives you experience, and it gives you repeat business. So once you do a deal with someone that owns their own business, a lot of business owners have friends and family that are business owners. So then you've done such a great job that then that next one that comes in, and the next one, and that's really how you build your pipeline.
I love that. So for clarification, so you talked about mentoring people in your own line. Can you clarify, do they have to be signed up with you in your EXP line, or they actually have to be working under you as an agent?
We haven't thought that far in advance, but everyone that is mentoring with us currently is in Brevard County, and they have directly signed up under us. We are directly under Tina Call, and okay. Tina has had commercial agents that have called us and us them to work on things together. But as far as being a mentee or having a mentor, being a mentor to a mentee out of North Carolina, the rules are different. And it's just so far away, I can't really give them a lead. So we really like to hone in on our specific market.
Okay, perfect. And then just to go a little bit further on that, because these are the questions they're going to ask me. So we have a lot of agents in Brevard County and agents in Orlando. So basically, if they wanted to work with you, they would just call you up, send you a referral. You wouldn't necessarily be their mentee. You'd basically be a cooperating agent with them, or like worth a referral. Yes? Yes.
And I would say just on case-by-case basis that everything's negotiable and different. So,
Okay.
there's somebody who's really passionate and we see that drive and they want to come, like Haley lives in Orlando and drives to 45 minutes to mentor with us. So there's a lot of different opportunities that could be. So I don't think there's a hard line that it's a no. It was very difficult for us to go beyond kind of our 45-minute radius to mentor someone outside of a market that we're not really familiar with. So.
You just don't feel like you're giving them the time or the focus that they need and not really understanding their market. You're having to stop and really educate yourself on another market. And I want to bring something else up on that I just realized was not in the presentation, and that's branding. So when Holly and I started our brokerage, we trademarked Rocket City Real Estate. We were a real estate company at the time, and we nationally trademarked that. And we have the rights to Rocket City, and we use it as Rocket City Commercial, Rocket City Realty, and we have a Rocket City group. And so with the coming into our program, you immediately get that same branding with us. And so when a client is working with us and we're like, oh, you want to sell your home? Great. We don't sell homes, but you can go work with this person. It's keeping it in the EXP family, EXP Commercial, EXP Realty, but it's with a different person, but they don't feel like they're being traded off to an entirely different company. So that's kind of how our mentoring program goes, but everybody is different. But branding yourself, no matter what, I believe is the number one thing, because it just really helps you getting the word out, and letting people know when you close a transaction on a home, and you know that they've got their home office but they work for a large corporation, letting them know that, oh, by the way, my broker also does commercial real estate if you ever need to do that. If you're not going to learn it yourself, get the 25% referral fee.
Thank you. So Haley, I want to take this back to Haley. I loved how you said you walk into small businesses, and a lot of these agents are newer agents or agents that are getting back into the business. And one thing that I always say is expand your reach. Go meet new people, and one of the best ways is to go to strip malls and go to small businesses and just introduce yourself or take some pop buys. Everybody likes a free magnet. Everybody likes a cute pop buy. And I love your line. What is it? Do you have plans for expansion? Like, what exactly do you say?
Right. So it's not my line. It's Beth Azor's line. That's why I said she's the queen. So what she does when she prospects is she walks in and she goes, hi, I'm Beth Azor. What are your expansion plans? And she's not asking, hey, can I speak to the owner? Can I talk to your manager? Hey, how long have you been in business? What are your expansion plans? She's already assuming that they're a growing business. And usually that makes people feel good, right? You're walking into my business and thinking I'm so successful that I'm already planning new locations. That makes them feel really good. And it's a great way to start a conversation. I've been very successful with it. And it opens up the conversation for them to talk about themselves and their business, which usually if they're a small business owner, they're really passionate about it. And honestly, I usually start any kind of conversation. I have a call today with a woman who reached out to me because she found me on TikTok, actually, that wants to open a women's clothing boutique. And the first question I'm going to ask her is, how long have you been in business? What do you see for the future of your business? Do you have a business plan? All of those things, right? When you talk to a homeowner, you ask what their goals are for home ownership. What is your dream? Do they want a house on the river one day? Well, to get their house on the river, maybe they have to buy an investment property. Maybe they have to buy a smaller house now to save more money for later. Same kind of mindset I find is very transferable. You guys will find, even if you've only sold 5 homes ever, you already have a lot of transferable skills.
Well, and yeah, because especially since you can be an EXP residential agent, it's a double whammy. You can go in and introduce yourself, expand your reach, get a residential purchase or listing and or commercial. So
yep.
This is another.
I had a woman reach out to us because she was looking to open a nail salon business, and she was like, yeah, I really want a commercial lease. And then we went and got coffee, and I was like, yeah, so just so you know, I'm happy to represent you to find space, but I also sell vacant land and residential investment properties, if you ever need help. And she goes, oh my gosh, that's so great. We had such a great conversation today. She just inherited about 10 different properties from her grandmother that she was looking to sell because she didn't want to be a landlord. So I've just closed, I think, my 5th or 6th deal with her, all my listings, because of that one conversation, right? So you never know. And she's my age, she's 23 years old. You don't walk into a conversation with a 23-year-old who wants to open a nail salon thinking they own a dozen properties, right? But you really never know.
So you guys, a lot of you were thinking like, oh, I don't have all the experience that, Holly has, and I don't have what Lisa has, but look at Haley. Haley's young. She's just going in and talking to people. Conversations create cash. And tell me, Lisa, what would you say? I'm going to ask both of you guys, all three of you, what would you say your favorite part of working commercial is?
Negotiating. I just really like the negotiating part of it and problem solving. Holly and I have turned the Space Coast took a double whammy during the recession. We not only had to go through the recession, but we also lost the space program. And when you drove through here about 10 to 15 years ago, it was filled with blight. And so when Holly and I started our business, I had relocated over from Orlando, and I was determined I was not going to drive 30 to 40 minutes to go and find a good place to eat or shop. And we both started just really focusing on the blighted property and knowing who's going to go in that space before you even reach out to the owner to see if they want to sell it, and negotiating how you're going to get that listing, and the negotiating of getting the top dollar for it, and just putting the word of mouth out there. We've really changed our tagline is real estate on a mission, changing lives. And we see every transaction as changing the lives of someone, no matter how big or how small. And that's my favorite part, is the negotiations. And
well, that's a great segue into my favorite part, is the change that we can actually make in the community. We say this all the time, whether it's the small business owner, like we helped a barber shop guy who was a barber for years and wanted to open his own business, and we helped him lease a space. It was $1,000 a month. It was a 1-year lease. We got paid $1,000.
that we split.
Yeah, that we split in half. So it wasn't the biggest deal we'd ever done, but and I'm not taking credit for what happened in his life after that, but now he's on appointment only because he's so booked out, like 6 months. You can't get in to see the guy. Him and his wife adopted a child. They've gone on vacation, like their life changed, and they got to follow their dream. And we've got to be a small part of that. As on the other end of that, like closing a 10-acre campus for a headquarters for a national manufacturing company that's bringing in 350 jobs into our community. All of those people have families, it's an impact on our community. They're going to go to our restaurants, they're going to go shopping. So this ripple effect that we get to see the change that we helped make in our community.
Wow, that's fantastic. And Haley, how about you? What's your favorite part of this job?
I have a lot of favorite parts. I think I'm really passionate about small business owners. So my favorite part is seeing their businesses grow after we move them into a new space or a different space. I represented this guy who owns a Brazilian jiu-jitsu studio. He was in this mall that's set to be redeveloped, and the owner of the mall, since he had redevelopment plans in for it, he wasn't making any repairs to the property. So he had no AC in his space. Imagine a jiu-jitsu studio. And he had roof leaks all in his space that they were trying to like spray foam. What's that called? Flex seal, the Shark Tank stuff that they were flex sealing. So it was like raining on his like very expensive mats. And so he was one of my first ever leasing deals. And we moved him into one of the plazas that Holly and Lisa represent the landlord for. And it's on a main road in town in a very nicely maintained plaza. It's one of the hardest negotiations we've ever had to do because unfortunately his personal credit wasn't that great. So we had to do all kinds of creative stuff just to get him in the space. Within 2 or 3 months of him opening, he had grown his business so much. After about 8 or 9 months of him opening in that new location, he texted me asking if there was any additional space in the plaza because he couldn't accommodate how many students he had coming in. So it was just a really big impact. And again, him and his wife's a nurse in the community. His kids go to school in the community. It's impact. They teach all ages, whether they're 5 years old or 55 years old. So it's also bringing community impact as well. And that's one of my favorite deals I've done.
What a great story.
And where is it? You said in Orlando?
So that one was in Titusville, which is about 30 minutes
Okay.
outside of Orlando. But I've done stuff in Orlando as well. My very first deal I ever done on commercial leasing was for my friends, opened their own women's clothing store in Orlando. And that was really exciting for them because it's like their dream, and now I get to go shop at their store. So that's really fun too.
Very cool.
So I usually like to give our classes and our students action steps. So do you have, so everybody here has KV Core, whether they're using it or not. Okay. And most people here should have a database. And I would love for you guys to take an action step to send out one email to your database. Okay. That's your homework. Write that down. Okay. So if they were to send out an email to kind of plant the seed, see who has a business or who's growing, what would they say in that email? And do you have a resource that you can share?
Who's taking that one?
Let Haley.
Haley, what would you say?
So you could probably use one of your existing scripts. So if you have scripts for new listings, so for prospecting for new agent or prospecting for new customers, I would just take one of those, but then transition it to commercial. But usually what I say when I'm prospecting for new people, knowing that I'm really young, and that when you Google me, it's going to show you that I'm a recent graduate of college. They're going to be like, what the heck? So I say, hi, it's so nice to meet you. My name's Haley, or I guess if this is a repeat client, you'd say, hey, I'm reaching out. I recently partnered with mentors with over 25 years of experience in commercial real estate, and we would love to work with you to help your business grow in whatever capacity that may be. Please send me a text or give me a call. My cell phone number is right here. Usually something short and sweet, but having somebody to back you up immediately, I find is really successful because it kind of eliminates that reaction, right? Of, oh, well, she sold me my house, but I don't know, she's never done a transaction like that before, I'm not going to work with her. Well, you already took away that, objection. So I try to think of the objection first, and then whatever that is, I address it before they even get a chance to.
And what's a subject line? So if they sent an email, what is a converting subject line? Because a lot of these people have really big databases.
That's a good question. So I guess if you're sending it to your entire database, it would probably be I would make it like big announcement or something exciting to build that excitement right with them. So big announcement, or, business change of whatever your real estate business is called, or, calling all business owners, some sort of like, oh, I want to click on that, I think would be good to get them to pay attention to it.
I've got one that was an accident one time that I used as a hook. There was some big economic event going on, and I sent out to my entire database with a subject line, hey, are you going? And every single one of them thought it was a very personal email. They all, like, I can't tell you how many personal responses I got to that. So I'm trying to think how you could convert that. Hey, can you help me? Or, hey, did you hear this? Or, something that's a very personal line that doesn't have anything to do with like, here, I'm going to try to sell you something. But I was just surprised at how well that works. So massage that into a hook.
I love that. Does anybody else have any questions?
I'd like to say one more thing. One of the first steps that we took when we sat down with Haley and all of our new mentees is I had mentioned brand. And if you look at your social media and you have yourself as realtor and all you're doing is talking about houses, but you want somebody to start using you for commercial real estate, you need to rebrand yourself. And I don't know if you want to pull up yours, Haley, on LinkedIn and how we converted that as I talk, but LinkedIn is a great tool to reach out to people that you can do your post in there and it's reaching out to corporations or business tools. But we just started with the brand. What is the Haley brand? How can we change the perception that she's just selling houses? And so this is what we came up with for her title. And so when people go in and they do searches for commercial, they will find her. When they go in and do searches for residential, they will find her. And each social media platform is a little bit different, but we really honed in, the first step was just somebody is going to look you up. They're going to Google you. So make sure that your message is coming across as what you want to be doing as well as what you're doing.
I love that. Thank you so much. Do you guys have any parting words? Lisa, Holly, Haley, and how can we get a hold of you guys?
Sure. I would say that, so my first brokerage that I was with was a very prominent, commercial real estate firm. They were probably the biggest in our area in 30 years and very daunting, just kind of like you imagine yourself walking into Shark Tank. That's what it felt like. And I was brand new. I had actually sold 2 houses, and that's when I realized I didn't want to sell houses after I sold 2. That was enough for me. But going in there and not pretending like I knew everything, being very open to learning and saying, I'm not sure, let me get back to you. Just it's not something you can fake it till you make it in. And we get that advice a lot. You really need to brush up on some of the language, but don't be afraid to ask for help. Let them know that you're working with a team, and someone else on my team usually handles that. Let me get right back to you on that. It's going to take a while. And I think for me, it was very frustrating. And Haley and I had this conversation when she first started. She's an overachiever and becomes an expert quickly at all things. And I kind of grew up that way too, where and we all did that, we're entrepreneurs, so we have that spirit, but really wanted to be an expert quickly. And it was so frustrating that I wasn't an expert. And when was I going to get it? And I talked to one of my mentors back then, and I said, when do you ever feel like you're an expert in this? And he had been doing it 30 years. And he said, you never will be, because every commercial transaction is different. So you'll get experience and you'll get a better feel and more confidence in what you're doing, but it's changing all the time. And the industry changed, the types of business you do, is it leasing, is it sales, is it land, is it industrial? So give yourself a break and give yourself some grace and just take advantage of the learning opportunities.
Perfect. And are you guys part of the Florida commercial group? In EXP?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you guys, you can also go to Workplace, since we're all EXP here, and you can search for commercial training, commercial groups, and then I'll find some training and send it to you as well. Ladies, thank you so much. This was very informative. Hopefully we can get you some referrals coming your way, and congratulations on your growth and having Haley, I'm very impressed. So
Thank you.
We are too.
yes. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. And we look forward to having Haley on tomorrow. I don't know if you ladies are coming on, but I appreciate this. I'll get you guys the recording.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye.